I titled this Learning to Love. As a young person, I would have said that love was something that I felt towards my mother, my father, and my brother. But I would come from a pretty fucked up family, and I wouldn't wish that kind of love on anybody. It took me 7 years away from home with my partner to be able to tell him that I loved him. Because every time that word came up, it got stuck in my throat, and I thought of my father, who I'd been told to parrot the words, "I love you too," even when those words never came out of his mouth. And if I didn't parrot those words back to him, I was whipped until those words did come out of my mouth. I had that kind of dad. When I graduated from high school, I moved to Lafayette to live on campus and to work and attend university. My dad took this opportunity to tell everyone in the little town that I came from that he kicked me out of the house because I was a fucking faggot and to never come home again. He also had to always one-up me. I had to learn to relearn the word love again. I finally came to realize that at this time in my life, love takes time, and that I had to separate the idea of family love from non-family love. Once I made that distinction, I realized that I could vocalize to my partner, to the person that I decided to share my life with, that I loved him. Over time, I realized that I could love other people too, and that there were different kinds of love. Over time, as I grew in my spiritual path, I realized that love took on new meanings. I learned that we see the world through filters that our parents put on our eyes, that our pastors put on our eyes, and through teachings, our own personal experiences, and other people's expectations. These filters were hampering my ability to see the world as it really was. My spiritual growth required that I remove these filters and see the world in all its immediacy and beauty and depth. In doing this, I came to realize that each person is exactly where they need to be in the world at this time, regardless of what they think of them, what we think of them. They have something to teach or something to learn. When I removed these filters from my eyes, I saw love all around me in the world. I saw love in the smallest kindnesses that people do to strangers. I saw love in the thoughtfulness and tenderness that we show our partners. I started to truly see love all around me. In the end, I realized that love is probably the most important word in one's life, and that true love was the final hurdle in my spiritual path. I learned that slowly every one of life's filters could be removed if I took the time to see the world as it truly was. As those filters began to fall away, I began to realize that to see the world through the eyes of love was to see the world as it truly was. To see the world through the eyes of love was the ability to truly see the divine in the world. My partner and I stayed together for 23 years, and although we're not partners today, we still can tell each other that we love each other and truly mean it. Now, one of the good things that goes along with this, the good as hell, that I've done in ways that I've given back love to the LGBT community, I'd like to share with you, is the story of a memorable young man named Anthony. When I lived in Long Beach, California, I met a young man online named Anthony. I complimented him in passing and was very surprised to get a response back from him. And we went on to establish an online friendship that lasted for more than a year. We chatted and passed the time and talked about casual things. And I could tell that he didn't have a father figure in his life, and that he enjoyed this aspect of our friendship. Sometime in the second year of this online friendship, Anthony told me that he wasn't really 18 years old, as the internet site required that you be. And that in truth, when we first met online, he was actually 15. And that he just recently turned 17. After my initial shock wore off, my response was, well, this doesn't stop us from being friends, and it doesn't stop me from continuing to be your mentor. And since our friendship was only online, there was no physical aspect to it. Of course, it does significantly change the kind of pictures that we can exchange with each other now. Our friendship continued to grow, and Anthony opened up more and more to me about his living situation at home. His father was in prison as a habitual heroin addict and for theft and robbery crimes. He lived at home with his mother and sister and said that he hated living there. Slowly, as he became more comfortable, he told me of the daily mental, physical, and sexual abuse that he was subjected to by his sister. And that she ruled the family so that even his mother felt powerless, and she pretended that these abuses didn't happen. Anthony was reaching out, crying for help to a father figure, not knowing where else to turn or what else to do. It was difficult to mask the rage I felt toward his sister whenever he told me about this and what she did to him almost every night. No one should be forced to live in a home like that. And I realized that he didn't have to. And though I'd never met Anthony or his family in person, they only lived about 15 miles down the road. I was loving and supporting, helping him to understand that he didn't deserve any of this, and that none of this was his fault, and that he actually didn't have to stay there and take it anymore. He didn't understand that right away, and I said, Anthony, you don't have to stay in that home anymore. If you want out, I'll pick you up whenever they leave for work and take you to Child Protection Services, and they will make sure that you never have to be around your sister ever again. I gave him my cell phone number and said, call me when you decide. 2 days later, he gave me a call and said, I'm ready. I want out. Now, it helps to know at this time that I'm an ordained minister, though I've never really run a church. And that I'm also a youth mentor. I'm not just some person off the street. So that whenever I picked up Anthony and drove him to my home and called Los Angeles Child Protection Services and waited for them to come to my home and interview Anthony. He was taken into foster care that night and into the foster care system. And the next day I was introduced into the LA court system as his minister and his mentor. I was background checked and fingerprinted and granted rights to have daily contact with Anthony for the year that he was in foster care. It was a rough year for Anthony, but it was a lot better than the hell that he was living in before. On his 18th birthday, Anthony aged out of foster care, and he asked me one of the best questions that I've ever been asked in my life. He said, may I join your family? And of course, my answer was yes. Now, 7 years later, this son, I introduced him as my foster son, because there's a big age difference. To others, I introduce him as my partner. It depends on the situation. The only real important thing is we're family. And I have finally rehabilitated the word. Family love. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give it up for Craig one more time? Really do appreciate it. What I love about this space so much is that